We looked last week at the prophet Ezra. He's saying, Lord, I look at the devastation of the people's lives around me, and I can't lift up my head to look at you. I look at the devastation of Delaware County. I look at Chester being the second hungriest place in America. 36.5% go to bed hungry every night. Only Brooklyn is worse off than we are. I look at the rich houses where people are shut up with all the stuff of the world, and yet they're spiritually bankrupt. I look at the church, not this church, but the church in general, and how people only want their ears tickled, and people only want their needs met. People only want to feed they only want to get fed when they should be feeding themselves and feeding others spiritually. I look at the devastation. Billy Graham says Delaware County is a place where pastors go to die. How you like that on your resume? How do you like Billy Graham saying in Philadelphia, 54 years of ministry is the worst place I've ever preached with the worst results. It is spiritually bankrupt. It's our town. Greatest living evangelist ever. Said 54 years, the worst place in the universe he ever preached was Philadelphia. Wow. How do we lift up our heads? Listen, we're not the only city that's devastated. Our denomination is based in Atlanta, Georgia. You know what Atlanta, Georgia is famous for? You know what it's the #1 capital in the world for?
Oh, I know this one.
Yes.
I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, the sex trade.
Yes! Atlanta, Georgia, where there's a mega church in every corner, is the center of the universe for human trafficking and sexual nature.
Wow.
How many denominations are based in Atlanta, Georgia? Excuse me for the pot calling the kettle black? Before they say that we haven't got a clue about Jesus? Listen, how do you lift up your head? You've got to be secure in your calling. Did God send you? Listen, I'm a missionary. There will never be enough money. There will never be enough. Church planting? Excuse me? Payment? What? Get a job, you bum. That's what you hear. Go be bivocational. Work a job. Serve God. Listen, if you're not convinced that God called you to go do it, you're going to die on the vine. You're going to commit harry-carry. Why? Because it's so easy. Well, I'm preaching from the heart here. I'm living this. You better be God sure of your calling. You better be secure. Whatever it is you... Don't pick on Crispy because he wandered in late. He's like, oh man.
I knew it.
Crispy is a phenomenal filmmaker. He is creative. He's got an imagination that is scary. Okay? In a good way. Sort of. Anyway. He's an amazing creative individual when it comes to filmmaking. We've had many cups of coffee at Tom Jones in the middle of the night talking about, am I really sure I want to do this with my life? Do I want to go be secure, be a teacher, or do I want to step out? I mean, listen, he has gone through that. You're commencing. You've gone through this struggle about, am I called?
Yeah.
Yeah. You got to go through this struggle. You have to be secure in your identity. Did God call me to do this? Because guess what? The moment you step out, there are going to be people who say, I don't think you should do that. I don't believe God's called you to do that.
Right.
Weren't you the same person 3 weeks ago telling me I should pray and ask God? He did. He spoke. Oh, I'm not sure about that now. By the way, Christians will be your worst enemy when it comes to your calling.
Right.
Yeah. Churches will not inspire you. You know, when we started this church, I had 2 guys that I love dearly who have been friends for decades say, I don't think God's called you to plant a church. As a matter of fact, our denomination, because the 2 of us don't want you here, you won't be here. Hi. Hung out with you guys for 25 years. Yeah, but we're just, we're convinced that God doesn't want another church in our town. Wait a minute, you got 400, he's got 150. There's 650,000 people here. You think God isn't going to room for a Baptist church? No. Listen. You got to be secure in your calling. Did God call you? Because it's between Jonah was insecure. That's why he was failing. That's why he was miserable and disappointed. Third thing, you got to be secure to his plan. You better be secure about the plan. Philippians 2 says this, therefore, my beloved, as you have always obeyed, so now, not only in my presence, but much more in my absence, work out your own salvation with fear and trembling. For it is God that works in you, both to will and to work his good pleasure. What? I thought salvation was free. I thought salvation was... He's not talking about eternal salvation sins here. He's talking about his plan for your life. He's saying, get on your face before me, either in my presence or in my absence, Paul said. Work it out. Be diligent. This says, do all things without grumbling or questioning. Jonah, you weren't paying attention to Paul. Oh, wait a minute. That's time difference. Sorry. Anyway, do all things without grumbling or questioning, that you may be blameless and innocent children of God, without blemish in the midst of a crooked and twisted generation, among whom you shine as lights of the world. Hold fast to the word of life, so that in the day of Christ I may be proud that I did not run in vain or labor in vain. God has a plan for you. God has a plan for your life. But it is upon you to work it out. It is not your daddy's and mommy's job to make sure that you follow through with what God's called you to do. It is between you and God to work it out and stick to it. The Bible says, run the race, finish the race. So those of you who are in college, either listening on the podcast or here in present, what is the number one reason for going for a degree in college? What is the number one reason?
Money.
No. Number one reason. Prove that you can finish something. I was interviewing for a job once, many moons ago. It was American Greetings. And we were talking, and I hadn't finished college yet. The guy said, I can't hire you. I said, why? Because you haven't proven that you can finish anything yet. Finish your degree, and we'll talk. Ooh. They want to see that you were committed and you followed through. Why is God not the same way? He's called you. Are you willing to follow through with his plan? Are you willing to work out the plan? It says this in James 1, in this trial, this testing, because you're going to be tested at this. It says, count it all joy, brothers, when you meet trials of various kinds. For you know that the testing of your faith produces steadfastness. Let steadfastness have its full effect, that you may be complete, mature, lacking nothing. If any of you lacks wisdom, let us ask God, who gives generally. Thank you. I'm having trouble today. My tongue isn't quite working. To all without reproach, and it will be given to them. But let him ask in faith, with no doubting. For one who doubts is like a wave of the sea that is driven and tossed by the wind. For that person must not suppose that he is willing to receive anything from the Lord, but he is a double-minded man, unstable in all his ways. Let the lowly brother boast in his exaltation, and the rich in his humiliation, because like a flower of the grass, he will pass away. But the sun rises with its scorching heat, withers the grass, and the flower fails, and the beauty perishes. So will the rich man fade away in the midst of his pursuits. Blessed is the man who remains steadfast under trial. For when he has stood the test, he will receive the crown of life which God has promised to those who love him.